Something tells me if he's being asked to come back here in a different role at CBS as opposed to NBC, one would think that if there was a lot of merit behind some of the claims, why would this brand new group bring him back in? Maybe it wasn't quite whatever was made out to be.
Renegade Online.
So we've got this final closure. Skydance Paramount merger clears the FCC at last, the Federal Communications Commission. Certainly that was going to be a big hurdle here because obviously the FCC is going to have to give, and apparently has given, their blessing for the transfer of the licensure from Paramount to Skydance, because they're going to be the new owners of Paramount, obviously. And without that licensure changing hands effectively with the FCC, CBS would not be able to broadcast CBS anymore. So the FCC on Thursday finally signed off on the marriage of Skydance Media and Paramount Global. The $8 billion deal has faced a myriad of challenges on its way to the finish line, but will be made official in the coming days by the companies. No shareholder vote or other approvals are required. With the FCC's blessing, the transaction will reshape the media landscape and recast David Ellison, chairman and CEO of the combined company, as a top Hollywood power player. Americans no longer trust the legacy national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly. It is time for a change, said FCC Chairman Brendan Carr in a statement. That's why I welcome Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at the once storied CBS broadcast network. Now, let's take that statement from Brendan Carr for a second, because there's a lot to unpack there. And it's no secret that Brendan Carr, obviously a Trump appointee, is part of that MAGA Trump movement with trying to cure the country of a legacy of really shoddy journalism. Very left-wing fake news, as it's been called, and whatnot. Getting rid of the extreme left-wing bias in 95% of the legacy media out there, probably. I mean, back in the 90s, for Pete's sake, we were referring to CNN as the Clinton News Network. And then after Clinton left, it became the Communist News Network. And you've got PMSNBC, and you've got NBC, and you've got ABC Disney. And hell, we've even got left-wing bias out there in sports media, like Sports Illustrated or ESPN, of course. It doesn't go away. So you look at Brendan Carr's statement here, and you have to ask yourself, is this a bit of a telltale sign? Is this a premonition of things to come? Is Brendan Carr and the FCC going to continue to tighten the wrench on some of these stations that are over-the-air broadcasts that have to go through the FCC? ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox in particular, the four big over-the-air broadcasters and their news divisions that have been long seemingly one-sided on almost every single issue. I think he's right. It's time for a change. Americans no longer trust the legacy national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly. They don't. They really don't. And the proof is that Trump has been elected 3 times, twice. Sorry. I think we all kind of look at this and realize that, yes, this has been a problem. This has been a big problem. And also the other part of this is you've got Brendan Carr in this statement that is giving a fairly ringing endorsement here to Skydance. This is why I welcome Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at CBS. And apparently this is something they discussed fervently during the hearings and whatnot for the FCC to make this decision. Or I say hearings, it may have, written arguments or whatever the case is, or their application to do this. I'm honestly not terribly familiar with this process because, frankly, it doesn't come up terribly often. How many times have we seen licenses really change hands? maybe only about 2 or 3 times really in the last even 25 years. This does not go down terribly often. The fact that he's giving Ellison this ringing endorsement should give everyone a reason to be at least hopeful that CBS is actually going to turn a corner. Now, it's probably not going to happen overnight. Case in point, jackass Stephen Colbert, right? Colbert loves to shove his foot in his mouth. And even though Stephen Colbert claims to have the biggest late-night audience that's on broadcast television, right? Because his audience is still about half that of Greg Gutfeld. But the demographic, the key demographic that advertisers really want, he doesn't get any of them either. They're all watching Gutfeld, and that's part of the problem for Stephen Colbert. And demands for higher and higher salaries and demands for keep the show on, it doesn't matter how much money we're losing, is problematic. And like we said before, and I'll talk a little bit about this more later in the show, because, of course, all the liberal media is absolutely beside themselves. The chicks at The View are taking a hiatus now for at some time. So we've got a story about that as well. I saw that all over X today, and there's obviously been some articles written. I think we even have one up on that Park Place right now. You can go check out. We'll probably quote from that one as well. It's a new day in America. It's a new day in American television, American media. DEI is getting taken apart. As part of this story, David Ellison is even talking about, nope, we're not going to have that stuff anymore either. We've never, we don't plan to use it. We don't want to have that anymore. There's been several stories about this kind of stuff. People understand that it's problematic as well. Back to the article here from Deadline. In particular, Skydance has made written comments to ensure that the new company's programming embodies a diversity of viewpoints from across the political and ideological spectrum. And that's fine. That's fine. Skydance will also adopt measures that can root out the bias that has undermined trust in the national news media. These commitments, if implemented, would enable CBS to operate in the public interest and focus on fair, unbiased, and fact-based coverage. Doing so would begin the process of earning back Americans' trust. Today's decision also marks another step forward in the FCC's efforts to eliminate invidious forms of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The merger was announced in July of 24 after a rocky courtship, and we've been through this story before, the Trump lawsuit, everything else. And yes, the episode of South Park everybody's talking about, I haven't watched it. I've seen plenty of clips in it. I'd be honest with you, I'm South Park, and I've said this many, 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 many times. South Park, there is nothing sacred to those two. They roast and destroy everybody. They go after everyone and everything that they feel like going after. So if they tore apart Donald Trump in this episode, which it looks like they did, to me it's like, well, that's what they do. It doesn't mean I like it or like the episode. It's just that's kind of what those guys do. They hate Trump. They hated Obama. They hated John McCain. They hated Mitt Romney. They hate, they've gone after everybody at some point. It's whoever just pisses them off. It's look, you don't have to watch it. I haven't, like I said, I haven't watched it. I didn't even know the new season was starting because they had the whole issue because of this merger going down, and then they struck a $1.5 billion, I forget, was it 10-year deal or 8-year, something like this, to be back on Paramount, and they had that episode sitting in the wings, and they dropped it right there. So, surprise, surprise. But David Ellison has promised to lean into the intersection of technology and entertainment. Deal marks a notable sweet comeback for Jeff Shell, head of Redbird Capital Sports and Media, who'll be president of the merged company. Shell was ousted as CEO of NBC Universal in 23 after being the subject of complaints about inappropriate contact with a subordinate CNBC anchor, Hadley Gamble. So he got Me Too. To be honest, I don't even know the particulars of that story. So I don't even want to speculate on it. But something tells me if he's being asked to come back here in a different role at CBS as opposed to NBC, one would think that if there was a lot of merit behind some of the claims, why would this brand new group bring him back in? Maybe it wasn't quite whatever was made out to be. I don't know. Again, pure speculation. I don't know much about the situation. Frankly, I don't remember it. I think that's most of what we needed to go through in that story because, and they go through some of the history. We've already covered a lot of that in the past. I don't want to rehash it. Frankly, it's a little bit uninteresting, and we've covered it before as in the last couple of years since this thing has been building to fruition. But like I said, I think the most interesting part of this story is the aspect of what Brendan Carr said, the chairman of the FCC here. And it gives me hope that, hey, maybe in 4 or 5 years, because we'll have a very robust competitor out there for something, more like, not saying that it's going to be another Fox News, but at least somebody in the major space, the major broadcast space that if what they're saying here they can actually accomplish, bringing a more objective delivery of traditional journalism, which we have been lacking for some time. So I can't wait to see what they wind up doing with that. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.